Can you guys can hear me? I'm sorry about that. Is it audible now? Check, check, 1, 2. All right, I'm sorry about that. It should be fine now. Let me know if you guys can hear me here. Funny to think I've been talking all this time with my microphone muted. Fucking hell. All right. Thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it. We are going through the early thoughts and see first, let's start with SPY. Let's start with what to expect leading into today and how to plan the day ahead because we still have like 45 minutes to go. So, yesterday's price action was something to note of. So, here yesterday, the highs of the day were around 382.23. The 382.23 level, let's say the SPY is above it right now. So that's what mentioned in the early thoughts. So as long as SPY stays above this level, 382.23 to 382.50, there is a high probability that they're gonna go ahead and run a test to 384.65 and they might spike it all the way to 385.84 or 385.34 per change. So in case of a pullback, this is the first area where the bulls might play defense on, which is at 382.23 to 382.50, that pocket. So if bulls, as long as bulls hold this level, SPY can push all the way to 384.60 and all the way to 385.34. If they take it above 385.34, we will take it from there. Anything above it, it'll be handled on a real-time basis. If the gap above it, watch out for 386.50 and this gap to be filled all the way at 388.95. This is something to keep an eye out for leading into today to the upside. To put it simple, as long as price stays above 382.50, the bull case is still valid and the prices to 384, 385.23 and 386.45 is still open. If they go above 386.45, we'll handle it on a real-time basis because we don't want to be overwhelmed with all the bullish case when the broader trend is still to the downside. So if you want to buy puts on SPY, it'll be better to wait for SPY to break under 380. So if they break under 380, well, there you go. You can short this all the way to 378.34. If they break under 378.34, well, you can go heavy on puts all the way down to 375 and change. That'll be the next level to watch out for. So there is no trades as long as SPY is trading in this pocket between 382.50 to 380. We don't want to mess with it because there is no risk to reward, so there is no point in actually going long on SPY at those levels. Or short, doesn't matter. So as long as SPY stays about 382.50, stay bullish. If SPY breaks 380, time to be cautious, time to load up on puts because SPY might go all the way down to 378 again and all the way down to 375 open stores. So this is the plan for today. Under 380, stay bearish. Above 382.50, stay bullish. So with that being said, I don't know how many of you guys trade QQQ here, the Nasdaq folks. So we'll go over that as well because it's gonna come important when we're trading Apple or Tesla leading into today. Correct, 382.50 to 380. We don't want to mess with it because it's there is no risk to reward and it's too much of a hectic to handle those type of trades because we need to scalp it because we don't want to get stuck with it. So as long as it's about 282.50, we at least have a risk defined trade. So we can just like go long, keep the longs to 384.60 to 385.23. It's a nice $3 bounce from the level which I mentioned. So in case of QQQ, they are about 270. It's the same price action as SPY. They're above the range where we got rejected on, which is at around 270.50. They're above it. As long as they stay above it, watch out for a spike to 371.50 or all the way to like 272.80. So the $2 bounce can be expected as long as they stay above 270.50 in QQQ. This will come in handy, especially if you're planning on trading Tesla or if you're planning on trading Apple. Keep a close eye for it. In QQQ, it tracks the Nasdaq 100, the tech-heavy index. So about 270.50, watch out for a spike to this 271.33. If they take it, they can go all the way up to 272.61 to run a test to these levels. Breaking about 272.61, it's a clear skies all the way to like 275 and change to the upside. So if they break about 272.61, you might see stocks like Apple, you might see stocks like Tesla, you might see stocks like Amazon, Google going higher alongside with QQQ. Something to keep an eye out for. As long as we stay above 270.50, there is always the doors opens for 271.50 and about 272.55 and all the way to 275 to the upside. So now, with that being said, we know what to do with SPY, we know what to do with QQQ. So, if you guys have any questions, let me know. So we will go over and take a look at some of the setups to trade or potential trades leading into today. We have a bunch of watch lists here. So we'll go over one by one to see if there is anything which stands out with a good risk to reward to the upside. So we'll go over some things which produced earnings yesterday, mainly FedEx, FTX. They are higher in the pre-market session. So something to note on is how far they can go. So we're looking at FedEx for now. So if you go to the daily charts and if you mimic this channel, they're just trading in between a wide range, which is from the channel which we see. They came all the way to the bottom of this channel yesterday and then now they're bouncing up. If they continue to push higher, not today, not tomorrow, they continue to push higher, they can go all the way to test the top of this channel, which is around 182.92, or all the way to 190 to the upside. Something to keep an eye out for, provided they don't break this. If they break down under it, this channel, they can go all the way to 140 and change to the downside. So now yesterday they just released their report and they said like they are taking around $1 billion worth of cost-cutting measures. The stock apparently liked it. The report was not so good either, so something to keep a note of. FedEx is just trading in a channel. If they continue to push higher, watch out for the top of this channel to be tested, which is at around 183 and change. So this was technically what you might want to call a double top. They did break under it, break under the neckline, which is around 170, and then they fell through. Technically speaking, this should take us all the way to 140. But they recaptured the neckline, which means the double top was invalidated in the first place as long as they break under it. So it won't be a double top anymore. We might be seeing something else morphing. So as long as they stay above 170, they might pull back today and they might find support there. 170 is important. So if you want to place your entries there for long term, it's totally up to you. But I'm not a big fan of it. I'm not touching it. So if it comes down to 170 and offers a nice bounce, you can take the trade there. The target still remains at 183, which was the local highs, or all the way to 187 to 190 to the upside. Nike. Yep, we'll go over Nike next. So the entire chart, if you go to the weekly charts, it's just consolidating in a bearish flaggish patterns. If you go to the monthly charts, similar setup, consolidation in a bearish flaggish type of pattern. Daily, same thing, but it's with a gap down. So we will see how it plays out. As long as it's above 170, probability of 183 to 190 is higher in case of FedEx. All right, so Nike, let's see what's going on with NKE. Oh, god damn, that's a nice gap up. They did report decent earnings, to be honest, so that is an insane gap up on Nike. Interesting. I did see the report, it was pretty good, but yesterday when I saw it, they were like around 106 to 107, but damn, I didn't expect them to go all the way to 115. All right, so in case of Nike, they are sitting right at resistance levels here. I would go short if this levels are offered. You can clearly see there is a strong resistance at around 117.66 to 118 area. And there's also some sort of resistance which was the local highs as well, so 116.53 to 117.66. So if you want to go short here at around at open that is like if they open at 116.30, if they open here at this zone, if you want to buy puts on Nike, your stop losses should be at closing candles above 117.50 to 118. So technically you're risking $2 to catch the pullback all the way down to 112 and change. 112 will be the first area of support. Breaking under it, watch out for this gap to be filled at 109 and change. So pretty simple trade here. It might be a bit aggressive because the stocks which usually gaps up like this sells off aggressively at the opening bell. So be careful, manage the risk. If you want to go short, 116.17 is the first level to keep an eye out for. So that is something to watch out here. And then if they break above it, watch out for it to go all the way to 117.71. So this is the plan for Nike if you're planning on trading it. Don't chase it to the upside until proven otherwise. It is still in a downtrend and we don't want to mess with it. So we can even draw a trend line from here. Let's do this, which was the previous highs at around 118 and change. And now to this highs we can draw it. We are still in a downtrend. So if you want to draw it like this, it's totally fine. If you want to draw it like this, it's totally fine. The resistance still comes in at 116 and change. So this is still a downtrend. So something that can happen is they pushing here. We call it peg, post earnings gap up play. And usually with no trend, they're going to sell off again. So watch out for it. Might be a good potential short provided they reject the 116 to 117 levels. So Nike is done. So let's go over mRNA. Yeah, mRNA seems to be having a rally for the past few days. Look at the percentage of moves which it had recently. Absolutely massive moves. From 115, this thing had rallied up like 80% in the past few weeks. Not even 87 to be honest, 87% to be exact. Absolutely insane type of stocks. So right now, leading into resistance, don't chase it, no risk to reward at these levels. So yesterday they opened at 188 and under, and then they held 200 as they closed about 200, and now they're even pushing higher. So leading into today, if they do push higher, they might go all the way to like around 210, but they are in a supply zone here. I wouldn't chase it. I would wait for them to get about comfortably above this 217 levels before touching it. So it's kind of a huge rally to the upside. I wouldn't kind of chase it here, to be honest. There is a kind of outperformance, but end of the day, it's still a stock that is in a downtrend, which is rallying to the upside. So something to note. 217 is the pivot for longs. 217 still remains a big resistance to the upside, and it is still in that big demand zone of 211 to 217. Supply zone. By that, I mean the price can reverse at any point around 211 to 217. We don't want to take that risk here. If they do rally above it and prove me wrong, that's fine. We can change our plans later. But for now, I wouldn't touch it for longs or shorts in this because it has an ATR of $11. It can technically move $11, so the options premiums usually price in that $11 moves. If we don't get it, they're going to crush it. They're going to crush those premiums, especially in the weekly calls or weekly puts. 1 day of flat trading is enough to absolutely wipe out the premium. So I don't want to mess with it here. 217 to 211 is still the supply zone to keep an eye out for, which is the resistance to the upside. So in mRNA, that is, as long as they're above 200, they can just consolidate and try to test the top of this area. Puts on Nike. You can give it a try. There is a potential. There is a potential trade to the downside on Nike. So, but don't enter it as soon as the market opens. We got to wait and see what it's going to do. Let the premium settle, because after a huge jump like this, you might see the premiums on both calls and puts elevated to a massive extent. Wait for the premiums to settle at least until 10. Nothing is going to happen with you missing out on few cents. You don't have to be the one to catch the top. Wait for confirmation. Once you get the confirmation, we will keep a go ahead. So 116 to 118 is still a strong demand, strong supply zone for Nike. If they can't break above it, well, go ahead, short this. 118.38, 117.65, 116.10. Three levels are important. All right, now let's go. What's up with Apple and what's up with Tesla? All right, so first let's go with Tesla to see what's going on. So the Tesla is having the bounce here. The two ways you can see this chart, you can go all the way down. This is the daily chart in Tesla. If you zoom out all the way and go ahead and check out this November 16th to November 17th, there was a huge gap to be filled, which they filled it yesterday. So right now, after filling it, will they bounce up again higher? So if they come back down to 136 to 134 today, you might take the risk to the upside for a potential short squeeze. So SPY is opening at resistance. If SPY pulls back, something to keep an eye out for. They might come all the way down to 134. And if they come down to 134, well, the short squeeze can be turned on. This is still a falling knife. Be very, very, very careful while trading this to the upside. There is no confirmation that the bulls are stepping in. There is none, absolutely zero. You are technically catching a falling knife here. This might, who knows, this can even sell off all the way down to like 119 or all the way down to like $98. We never know. So be very careful longing this. Wait for buyers to actually step in. If they do pull back today and find support at around 137 or 134, you can take the risk there. Keep your position sizing very, very small. And once you get the confirmation, you can scale into it. So that's the type of trade which we need. We don't want to buy like 10 or 15 contracts initially and then go lose on everything. So go with one contract. Keep the position sizing very, very small at the beginning. Once you get the confirmation that the buyers are stepping in, then you can slowly add on to your purchase. So that is one way of taking the trade. So that is about Tesla. 134 is still important to the downside. So if they offer 134, you can take the risk, potential high probable trade to be keeping an eye out for. And if they do bounce from there, well, they can go all the way to run a test to this top of the gap at around 147 and change, a massive short squeeze maybe. But we need some sort of confirmation. The sentiment is bad, the trend is bad, the chart is bad. I wouldn't mess with it to the upside yet. So let's wait for confirmation. Let's see how it goes. Apple. Let's see what the iMob is saying. Okay, yesterday we took a trade on Apple. It was a pretty good trade. Like they gave a nice bounce from 130 area, which was also the previous 52-week low. Something to keep a note on. 52-week low in Apple, which is at around 129.44 and change. They are bouncing. If you're long, the next big massive resistance comes in at around 134.89. A real big area, an important area to keep an eye out for, which acted as support multiple times over and over and over again. So leading into today, 129.44 is still an important area to the downside, and 135 to 134.89, that's still important. So we might do something like this. If you are bearish on Apple, this is a potential scenario to keep an eye out for. They might just jump all the way up, get rejected, come back down, and then fail and fall again. So this is the bearish scenario to keep an eye out for. All right now, so let's go over what to expect from Netflix. If you're planning on taking a trade on Apple, 129.44 is still remains the massive area of support. If you're holding shares from yesterday at this area at 130 cost average, you better run for hills when they break this area. So as long as they're staying above it, your risk is defined. It's still a beautiful entry. If you got it yesterday, it doesn't matter if it's with call options or doesn't matter if it's with shares. 130, still a big area of interest. If they break above it, watch out for 135 to 134.89 to the upside, especially if SPY and QQQ cooperates. So some big level to keep an eye out for. What about Netflix? Let's go over Netflix. All right, Netflix, again, I mentioned this yesterday. I'm saying this again today. This chart is not something I would be like to get involved with. So I like Netflix at 255 to 254. Until that offer, this red zone around here, that's the zone where I like Netflix on. Until this zone is being offered, I'm not interested in this to the upside. Yes, they might bounce all the way to like 300 and change, but nah, I want 255 all the way up to 280 trade, that 30-point trade. I don't want like 3 points, 4 point scalp back and forth. That's not the trade which you're looking for. So we yesterday during our live stream we set our alert at 255 and change. I would recommend you guys doing the same as well. It'll be better to take the risk over here than taking it here. You can take the risk at 255 and there's a high probable case that we're at least going to have a massive bounce to the upside from there. If we fail there, it's fine. You can immediately convert it into puts and go short on Netflix and then make back almost all your losses and also make a huge amount of money when it marches all the way towards 216 from there. This is the level which you need to keep an eye out for. If until it gets, stay away from Netflix. Not a big fan. 255 is the level. Something to note. If they hold 255 and then bounce, well, it's a good risk to reward trade to the upside. If they break this level and start falling under 250, well, you go short. Immediate puts. You go short all the way down to 216 and change to the downside. Decent risk to reward trades around that area. Until that's being offered, nope, not interested. Same with Apple. If you want to buy puts on Apple, wait for Apple to break under the 52-week low. The 52-week low on Apple is at, to be exact, 129.81. 121.81? Sorry, 129. That's the 52-week low on Apple. Wait for 129 to be taken out comfortably, and then you can just go short all the way down to what's the next level? Here we go, 122 and change. It's an easy short from there. Until that's being offered, I wouldn't recommend shorting Apple here, but if you want to take the risk, 134.68. That's the next level you can potentially short this Apple on. So 134.68. This is for a scalp kind of trade. But if you want a bigger fish, you gotta wait for 129 to be taken out. So 134, 135, you can see it. This was the jump after the CPI data announcement. The day where Apple fell and then rallied all the way up and closed the day after rallying like 10-15 points to the upside. Again, they came back, ran a test, held it as support. Again, they held it as support. Over here, they held this level as support. Leading into today, this level is going to be a brick to break for bulls. It's going to be a wall, absolute wall. 134.81, potential area to short Apple on. So set your alert over here, something to keep an eye out for, especially if the market pulls back from where it is trading at right now. We already gapped up big time, so something to keep an eye out for in case of Apple. 134.89 to the upside, 129 to the downside. Both are important areas. We've got to wait and see which way the bulls or bears take it. So if we do get another gap up tomorrow, and if bulls gap up above this number, which they usually do, you can see it here, they couldn't break above, they couldn't break below it, so what they did was they just gapped it up higher. So here they couldn't break under it, they just gapped it under. So these are all the ways where they can do to break these levels. Either they're going to gap it up, or they're going to struggle and they're going to struggle and they're going to consolidate all the way until they get to this range and then break down. Something to note in case of Apple, and as Apple goes, so does the market. So something to keep note on. Let's go over the futures and see what they're doing. Right, they're still holding on. The futures are still holding on, and if you're trading ES, 3900 still remains a massive break to the upside right now, which is like just 20 points more from where we are at right now. What's the top of this candle? Yep, 3912 is the level which we are watching for. So the retest of the bottom wedge, good shot. Let's see, Netflix, NFLX. Yes, you can try that. You can do that. If they go all the way up to like 305 maybe, 305 to 300, that'll be the retest of this lows, intermediate lows as well. So you can take the risk over there around 305 to 300. You can take the short and then ride it all the way down to 354, provided the markets pull back alongside with you. Again, this is one of the biggest companies. It moves with QQQ. If QQQ is turning bullish, if Nasdaq is turning bullish, there is no point in going short in this. But I'm pretty sure we're going to get 255 pretty soon again. And until that's being offered, I'm not touching it. And if 305 offered and get rejected, yes, that's a good decent shot to the downside. So let's see. If that's being offered, only if that's being offered, take it, or else not worth it. Meta, let's see what's going on. Mark Saki boy. Alright, they're still holding on. That's a good chart. Still holding on to that range. Oh, we'll cover end phase. We'll cover end phase. No problem. First, we'll go over the meta. Still that consolidation range you can see, which they have been like going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth on. So with an intermediate pivot at 11850. So leading into today, the range is still there, 112. So 113 all the way up to 124. So if they go above, or if they break above 118.60, well, they can go all the way up to run a test to this 124 levels again. And breaking this 124 levels or failing at these 124 levels depends on where the SPY and QQQ is at the moment of Meta trading at around this area. Do you remember Friday when they had this gap up? Look where they rejected at, 124. That level is a brick wall in case of Meta. If you want to go short on it, this is the level where you might take the risk on, 124 and change. If you want a long Meta, by shorting, I mean buying puts. By longing, I mean buying calls or shares or whatever it is, right? So if you go down, if Meta offers 113 again, well, you can try messing around with the calls and or shares, or it's totally up to you on how you capture the move to the upside. This is a risk-defined trade at 113. If they break or close candles under it, you can get stopped out for a small loss, or you can just buy puts immediately for a trade to 108 and change, which is the next level to the downside. The one thing to note, after days of consolidation, if they do break down, I don't think 108 level is going to act as support to the downside. They're going to come all the way down to fill this gap, and all the way that is at 101 and change. Something to keep a note on, the consolidation, they're just building up energy. Which way the energy is going to get released depends on what the SPY and QQQ is going to do. For now, if they hold on to 112 again, there is a high chance that they're going to go all the way to the top of this range again at 124 and change, provided they take about 118 and 73 in case of Meta. Respect the range until proven otherwise. Simple as that. End phase. It's been quite a while since I traded it. Alright, still about 300 in Preso. They had a alley-oop yesterday, like they just dumped it and then recovered back to close at about 300. Interesting. Right, leading into today, the 300 level is still an area of real importance in case of end phase. So I don't want to mess with this as long as they are staying above 295 and change. This is like a stock which is having an ATR of 16. You can see, like, expect $16 move, wide swings in both directions. I don't want to be a part of it until I see a decent setup. If I see it under 295 or yesterday's lows, short the shit out of this all the way to 285 and change. Until they're above it, nope. Don't mess with weekly options, not worth it. Go for, if you want to trade this, you better give yourself some time. You better give yourself a wide stop losses. You better go with a smaller dated expiration. Like a contract which is not that expensive. Depends on your risk, that is. Like to your overall portfolio, that is. So give yourself some time for things to work out. Weekly trades, I'm not a big fan in this, especially if a stock moves $16, these options will be toast, and next day they'll move down $16 to bring your options back to life. So you gotta have a wide risk appetite while trading the stock. So as long as, to put it simple, as long as the daily closes are about 300, something to keep an eye out for is they can try to push above, but the 305 is still a massive resistance to the upside. For now, if they can't get above 305, the probability of higher numbers are still here. 300 is still important. To the downside, 295, and if they break it, 285 and change. And the target still remains all the way down at, what's this price point? There it is, 273 and change, in case of a massive sell-off to the downside. They might do it today, we never know, or they might do it by end of the week, we never know. So that is for Enphase. It's not a stock which I'd be even messing around with. Not my type of trading. It's too much volatile for my taste, but if that's for you, manage the risk wisely. Take the contracts which has at least a decent amount of liquidity, because some of these contract spreads absolutely suck. That being said, Roblox. Alright, Roblox. Interesting looking chart. Consolidating. Let's go to the weekly and start along with it. I don't trade this much, so we'll analyze it together. I don't know what this chart doing here. 36. Let's remove that and start over again. So this is the daily chart. This is the weekly charts in case of Roblox, and the weekly charts there we do have a range bound, a wide, elaborate range bound session going on. Let's just say $50 to the upside, like this to all the way over here. They are sitting right at support, to be honest, in case of a weekly time frame perspective. Now if we move to the daily, we can clearly see that. So it was just an elaborate range bound session which has been going on. If you want to long here, buy calls or whatever it is, if you want to do that here, you better make sure to manage the risk, because they are at support. Yep, it's a risk defined trade, breaking under 26.20. Well, there is some pockets around 24 and 21. That's still a $4-5 move from our entry price. It's going to kill the options. So if you're going to go long here, and if you're going to go long again here, and if you're going to go long again here, your entry points will be 25.77, and to the downside it's 24.55, and another downside is at 21.81. If you do this, where will you put your stops? You're buying at 3 entry points, and your stops will be at breaking under 21.81. And if you have a big risk appetite, you can go ahead and buy it here, and the trade will be to this gap fill at around $31. So provided they take out 30 to the upside. Again, all these moves to the upside in growth stocks depends on what SPY and QQQ does at the end of the day. We can't expect these growth stocks to move a lot with SPY and QQQ in a downtrend. They are barely above 285. They are not even about 385 in case of SPY. So you can see this level acting as a massive resistance leading into today, which is at around 386.50, provided they get there. They're still about 382.23 to 382.50 zone, which we spoke about in the beginning of our stream. So let's see how the day goes. If they do push higher here, they can take the market alongside with it. The problem here is they already made most of their moves in the early night session, so in the future session, that is, which takes away most of the opportunities during the trading session. So we gotta wait for them to pull back. We gotta wait for the stocks to hit those prices which we were looking for before making a good entry. So that's the problem here. It's gonna be a boring day if you're not in any position. You gotta wait for the setups. You can't chase it at the opening bell, because when they hit the resistance and sell off, they're gonna crush those premiums, especially if it's on a weekly options. Wait for a while for the market to pull back. Place your entries over there. It varies on the setup which you're trading, of course, but still. Almost every single tech stock looks like absolute death. That's the sad part here. Nothing to be optimistic about. I might just grab some March or April 255 puts on Netflix, to be honest. That's something I'm looking out for. Not a trade idea, not a financial advice. Don't follow me, you will lose money. So be very careful picking or doing what I'm doing. but I need Netflix at 255 to go long on. And if 300 is offered, I might short this. Let's see. McDonald's is breaking down, something to note. So if they do go all the way up to 270 today and get rejected there, that would be a decent shot to the downside as well. There is a signs of a trend change here on MCD. And if you want another sign of a trend change, you have Monster Energy Drink, MNST, hovering around at the new all-time highs, above 99.70. Set your alert at 99.70, and if they break under it, go short to $95. That's the trade which I'm looking for. Under 99.70 or under 100 closing daily candles, that is. The close daily candles under it, I am looking to go short on this all the way to $95 to the downside. This is the trade which I'm watching, one of those trades, and I am long SI. It's not giving me the bounce which I wanted. That's frustrating, but still, I'm still holding on to this. I'll tell you why. It's an ugly looking chart. Why did you go long? I understand, but they are at important demand area here, around the 1650 to 1618 area. As long as they're holding that, I'm staying long on this, and provided they'll give me a bounce all the way to test the last week close, which is around 1876, or all the way up to $21. That's the trade. RSI is way oversold, and doesn't matter, it can go much lower. Not taking the trade based off of it, it's just based off of supply and demand. They are in a demand zone. If they push higher, I'm waiting for them to go all the way to $21, and then I'll cut my trade over there. So these are the stocks which I'm watching for: Apple, Nike, FedEx, SPY and QQQ, of course. We'll go over the SPY and QQQ plan again, so you guys can keep a note of it. Always check out the early thoughts section under the Mario tab, or under the Patreon's channel. You can explain pretty clearly on what you need to do and what you expect for leading into today. If you go to the 15-minute chart, this is yesterday's price action on SPY. Pretty simple. They held on to the Friday's lows, which is around 278.35. That area was important. They pushed above 380 and then marched all the way to our first level of resistance, which is at around 382.50. Yesterday's highs were somewhere around 382.23. So leading into today, if they do pull back, watch out for support to be found at this area at around 282.50 and 382.50 and 382.23. That's the first area you might find some buyers at. If you want to take the trade to the upside there, yes, there is a potential for a bounce all the way to 384 and change, 384.60 to be particular. This pink line is what we called anchored VWAP. It coming all the way from the lows of that 340. Remember the SPY hitting 340 when the CPI was announced, and then rallying all the way to 360 on the same day? Well, yeah, that's the level which we are talking about. So this AVWAP at around 384.61. If they break above it, watch out for SPY to run test to 386 to the upside. As long as it's about 382.50, stay bullish. If it's going under this chop zone of 382 to 380, well, we don't want to do anything with SPY. We're done for the trade, done for the day. As long as they're in the chop zone, we don't want to take any trade until we get the decision. Breaking under 380, short this to 378. Breaking under 378, that might open doors all the way to 375 to the downside. That is the plan for today in case of SPY. So what about RNA? What's going on there? Oh, nice. They were up like 5% yesterday. Let's go to the weekly charts to see the trend. The trend is to the downside. Still the broader trend, still to the downside, not looking great. Alright, so the broader trend is still to the downside, and they are getting rejected at that downward sloping trend line from the all-time highs. Well, let's see if they can break above it. Until they break above it, I wouldn't go long here. If you're not long here at that initial bounce all the way to like $16, you still captured $4, move to the upside. They might go all the way to run a test again at 20 before failing and then falling down again to fill that gap. So something to keep an eye out for. So $20 is still important. and the trend line coming all the way from the all-time highs is still important as well. So it is a downtrending stock, treated as a downtrending stock. It is still in a bear trend, so don't get overly bullish on this and then get slapped. Which tool do you use to determine the percentage increase? If you go to the trading view, on this side you will see this scale, we call it measure. If you click on it, and then you can just like do how much percent they've been increased from bottom to top, right over there. 112% increase from the lows. Over here, the measure is the tool which we use to determine the percentage change. Rather, you're talking about the stock and not the options price. What was the plan for Nike? Okay, let's go over Nike again. For Nike, pretty simple. The local highs, which was sitting at around 118 and change, 118.41. If they offered that with the early morning spike, that might be a good area to go short on Nike. It's going to be an aggressive trade. It's going to be a quick one. You just go short and you just secure profits immediately as soon as you see the bounce to the downside. If you want to wait for premiums to settle, if you want to wait for the confirmation, you can, because initially speaking, the options premiums are going to be nasty at open. Because if you have traded earnings, you should know as soon as the market opens, especially in your direction, those are going to be absolutely brutal. And don't get in as soon as the market opens, because they're going to crush it by 10 o'clock. Wait for at least 10. If you are aggressive, well, it's up to you. If you didn't get the direction right, those premiums are going to get absolutely destroyed in a few minutes. So wait for a few minutes. You don't have to be first in the trade. You just want to be correct. So the price point which I'm looking for is at around 118.33. That's the level which was the previous highs. And if they break above it, or if they reject there, we have a nice short in our hands all the way down to 116 and change. It's a nice $2 move. We're expecting a $2 move, but they can sell off much lower if they can't recapture or if they can't go above this range. So, and if they do go above, you can set your stop losses at 119 and you can just cut it for a small loss. So it doesn't matter much. So you're technically risking like what, 50 cents to make like $2. That's a good risk to reward if you ask me. So if you guys have any questions, any other charts you guys are looking at, let me know. We'll be happy to go over it. So let's go over the Discord to see what our members are saying. The Chris Saint server. Right, just a bunch of good mornings. SPY is going down with a slow bleed. Nope, it's not going down with a slow bleed. Right, let's go over to my server to see what's going on. Market pushes green. SoFi. Alright, let's see SoFi. One of the members' recommendation. So let's see what's going on with that. Alright, nope, we're not touching this. We don't want to do anything with this. Not gonna get involved with this chart at all. Coinbase. Nope. Not gonna get involved with this falling knives. Affirm. Wait, what's going on? AFRM. Yep, there we go. Nope, not touching this either. So, we're only gonna look for Apple puts at 135. That's something to keep an eye out for. Nike puts at 118.50. Something to keep an eye out for. CPB, what's CPB? Oh, Campbell Soup, alright. Oh, that's a nice looking chart. Like they do have dividends yesterday, did they? They did have it. Or oh, okay, they're having dividends in the past few days, okay. Alright, so it's a pretty looking chart. Near all-time highs, did they? Yep, they're near all-time highs. Beautiful looking chart, to be honest. As long as they're above $55, I don't see any point in shorting this stock. Beautiful looking chart. They can keep pushing higher. It's still just range bounding between like $57 to $55. So it just has a delta of like 1.20. So if that's his thing, I like shares better because it's a beautiful looking chart. I don't see any reason to go short yet. We will know that trend is changing if they break under 55. So as long as it's above 55, I like it to the upside. Appreciate you a lot. Oh, thank you so much, mate. Appreciate you for being here. What about Meta for a one-day hold? All right, so if you missed an entry yesterday, it's totally up to you. Your risk to reward is severely kind of like shrinked. That's what happened here. because taking the trade from 112 to 124 is way different from taking the trade from 118 to 124. Well, it's still a 6 point move, but the amount of money which you're risking is way too much. If you're going to hold on a weekly contract with shares, it doesn't matter. Technically, like if you enter here, you're setting your stop losses for like $5 to make what, $5 to the upside, 1:1. Yeah, it's not going to work out well. We don't want to mess around with it right here. If they offer 112 for you, you can take the trade again, or wait for 120, 124 to be offered again so you can buy puts. Because if you missed this yesterday's move, I don't want to get involved in it today for a bounce. Very likely that we can go to 124 again, but still, we never know. We never know how long it's going to take to get to 124. That's the problem. Run. Is it sun run? Solar? Yep. Oof. Nasty looking motherfucker this is. Alright, so looks like they want to go down to fill the gap. Alright, I wouldn't touch this stock, to be honest. Like, I would wait for it. If it offered $28 today, if they just like bounce up and offer $28, I would go short again. Until that being offered, nope, not touching this to the upside at all. And to the downside, there is some sort of support at $25, but the main level of support comes in at right over here at $19. Other than that, I don't see any important areas. If you go all the way, $22 is important. Yep. I can see them coming all the way down to $22. That might be a big area because that was the peak before the pre-COVID crash. So something to keep an eye out for. Alright, boys. Good luck today. And I know you said 119 or 118 for puts in Nike. Will that be good for 1 day hold? What's your time frame? Are you planning on day trading anything today? If you're looking for day trading Nike, I would wait. If you want to take the risk, you can take the risk, but make sure to cut it for a small loss if they break above the highs of this candle and start closing the daily above this highs, which is at around 118.47. If they close above this, they can go all the way to fill this gap. But yeah, the gap fill also comes around the same area at around 118.50. If they start closing candles above it, we don't want to get involved with this. So run for the hills. If you are shorting this for a quick in and out sort of trade, you're shorting this when it hits a massive resistance and it falls off. That's the trade here. When the stock hits the resistance, it pulls back. You're catching that pull back and you're getting out, in and out, in out, hello, goodbye sort of thing. That's it, done. We don't want to get involved in it much longer because with the earnings optimism, they can just keep pushing to the upside over and over again. So let's go and see where the moving averages are in case of Nike. All right, so interesting. They capped up above all the moving averages. So leading into today, 110 is going to be an area of importance, a 200 SMA. And to the upside, the area still remains at 118. Still an important area, still an important resistance. If you want to short it, you can short it all the way to 110. So let's see how it goes. It all depends on SPY and QQQ at the end of the day. All right, boys. If this is helpful, let me know. We can do this on a daily basis as well. So it is fun. We can go over different stocks. We can go over different markets. We can go over the early thought session. And yep, I'll see you guys tomorrow, I guess, most likely. Thank you so much for joining. Leave a like, subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the morning. Best of luck today. Take high probability trades. Manage the risk wisely.